Okay, let's see if you all can hear me or not. Okay, let's see if you all can. Okay, let's look at this particular question called 43, right? Word eagle. Sorry, it's a bit noisy. So let's just do this particular question. Word eagle, September, December 17, right? So what are we supposed to find over here? Basically requirement is we are supposed to find a hedging strategy, right? So hedging strategy, let's see. Right, so hedging strategy. Not an easy thing, but still. Right, so hedging strategy for D27,000 investment, right? Based on choices at Treasury, staff are considering if the interest rate rises by 1.1 and decrease by 0.6%, right? Okay, let's do it. Word eagle, right? Okay, so it's a company based in Eurozone and has expanded over the years by combination of acquiring subsidiaries in foreign countries, setting up its own operations abroad. So it's acquiring subsidiaries, right? So it's what do you say? It's rapidly expanded rapidly, right? So basically, if it's expanding rapidly, so it's how is it doing so? It's doing so by acquiring subsidiaries in foreign countries, setting up its own operations abroad, and then it's finding it difficult to monitor its activities and vertical support functions, including its treasury functions, right? Have struggled to cope with greatly increased workload, is planning to restructure the company on a regional basis. Okay, how will that impact, right? So the regional board and appropriate support function manager in some of the large countries in which Word Eagle operates are unhappy with the reorganization on a regional basis. So some of them are disgruntled as well, right? In their countries should be a large amount of autonomy and be supported by internal functions based on a national basis, right? So they want more autonomy, they want it based on national basis, right? So of course you might be having to discuss that. So basically advantages of what treasury thing, right? So single global treasury function and then separate treasury, right? Having that, so we have to compare between them. Okay, not a big thing, so that's for discussion, right? So but still the point things should be noted over here. So some kind of background information is given over here, right? And then after that, what else? Assume it's something of 1st October 20W7, and then the central treasury function has just received information about a future transaction by a newly acquired subsidiary in Eurasia, okay, where the currency is dinar, right? And then expects to receive dinar. Okay, so it wants the money to be invested locally in Eurasia for 5 months until 30th June 20x8, right? Okay, so we have some dates over here. 31st January, right? So what else? Treasury Department is aware that economic conditions are uncertain, and then the company's bank rate in the company is the country is 4.2%. Treasury believes it can invest the fund in urea at the central bank rate less 30 basis points. However, Treasury has seen the prediction that the central bank could raise by 1.1 and then 0.6. So 1.1 increase is great, right? That's a huge increase. So what a normal hedge, imagine like your figures is in like this many dinars and then it's increasing by that, it will be huge number. So Treasury staff hedge interest rate exposure by using one of the following. So we are using FRA, we should be given some forward rates then. Then we have what, interest rate futures, okay, and then options on interest rate futures, right? So it's a bit different than currency. What else should emphasize? Treasury functions guideline emphasize the importance of mitigating the impact of adverse movement in interest rate. However, they also allow staff to take into consideration upside risks associated with interest rate exposure when deciding which instrument to use. Emphasize on mitigating the impact. Okay, so there is some kind of hint over here, right? Take into consideration upside risks associated with interest rate when deciding which instrument to use. Okay, so a local bank in New which bank has not dealt before. Okay, this point could be crucial. We can just write like the bank could default and blah blah, right? So that could basically form a part of discussion. That's pretty sure. And has offered following FRA rates. 4 to 9 is that much, 5 to 10 is that much. So Treasury has obtained the following information about exchange rate dinars and options. So those figures are there. And what else? So 3 months thing is there. When is the transaction happening? So expects to receive the sum on 31st. Okay, so is this the same page that I'm working on? Yep. So 31st, what is it? AFM exam kit, right? Yeah, I think should be good. Yeah, 31st January, right? January is when we expect to receive the cash. So we need a futures that we need to select on. What else we need? 1st of October is today, 20W7. We need the funds until June 20X8. Right. So for this thing, how many months are there? So October, November is there, December is there, January is there, right? So 4 months over here. February, March, April, May, June, right? Okay, so 4 to 5. I think we will be using this rate. All right. I hope I'm not wrong, yeah, because sometimes I get very confused with the dates. But still, let's see. 4 to 9. 4 to 9. That's what I'm going with. And then for December, the transaction is happening on 31st Jan, so we could select the March futures. And then what else? We are depositing the money, right? So let's talk about that as well. Options. For options, what are we going to do? For options, so we are depositing the money. So what's the risks? So basically, if the rate is 4%, the rate going down is our risks, right? So 4%, 3%. If we go over here, we will make a loss, right? So what will be the price at that point? The futures price, it will be 96. It will increase, right? So basically what we want to do, we want to buy at that price and then we want to sell at that price. So what do we do? So if you want to make to cover up the loss, if you want to make a profit, then what do? We basically have to buy call option. All right. So if you are making a loan, what would happen? 4% to 5%. So you will be making a loss over here, but what would happen over here? 96 to 97, you will be making a gain. I mean, not 90 thing, 95, and then you will be making a gain over here, right? So that is in case when you buy, if your it has to be a put option, right? If you're making a gain in when the market is decreasing, it has to be a put option, right? Basically, you sell today and then you buy at that point in time later on. Okay, so in our case, we are depositing the cash, right? So we buy some call option for March. So just don't need to worry about anything else. Okay, so basically we have the conceptual understanding. So let's just go with FRAs first. So what do he have here? So I might need a calculator as well, but since I did not get it, so I'll have to get my calculator as well. So, interest rate. So let's just see. Let's just change the interest rate. If interest rate rises by 1.1% to how much? 1.1%. What is the current rate? What's the current rate? 4.2, right? So it will be 5.3%. Ooh, 5.3%. That's a bit higher for a developed economy, right? So interest will be, or the transaction will be, basically we can just say transaction will be what? 27 dinar zero into what else? Into where is the rate? 5.3% minus, of course, let's not forget minus or plus always, right? 0.3%, so it's going to be 5% times, what's the thing, time period, for how long? Did they say somewhere they say for 5 months, right? So for 5 divided by 12, right, equals to, let's see how much will that amount to. 27 million times 5% times 5 divided by 12, right? So 560 to 500. I don't know why this number feels so familiar. And then after that, the FRA, what will it do? What was the guaranteed amount by FRA, right? So it was 5.02%. So it has to be the 27 million times. So what was the guaranteed amount, right? So 5.3% minus 5.02 was the only guaranteed return. So we have to pay this excess amount into 5 by 12. That's for annual rate, right? So 5.3 minus 5.02 will give us 0.28. So 27 million times 0.28% divide by 12 times 5. So 31,500 we will have to pay it back. So 560 to 500 minus 31,500 will give us 531,000, right? Oops, why am I doing that? Okay, so that's the case when the interest rate goes up. One thing I have to calculate as well is effective rate, interest rate. So let's just write it properly. I'm very lazy. Equals to 531,000, not dollars, it's in same currency, right? Dinars, 12 by 5, so it's for 12 months. I mean, it's for 5 months, right? So we are just calculating how much the rate will be for just annualizing, and the whatever you get is basically the rate, right? But that this amount that you will be paying, the interest you will be paying, it's for 5 months only, right? So what do? We divide it by 5, so we'll get every month, right? And then we multiply it with 12, right? 531,000, so 531,000 divide by 27 million times 12 divided by 5, so what? 4.72 into 100, 4.72%, right? So vertical, right? So I just wanted to check with the thing as well. Answers and everything, so that I just don't wanna make any mistakes. So 4.72%, we are good until now. Okay, so what about if the rates, if interest rate decreases by 0.6% to 0.6%. So how, from where is it? 4 point, from what was it? 4.2, right? So 4.2 minus 0.6, 3.6%. So for the transaction section, what will happen is that so it will be 3.6% minus 0.3. Of course, because the bank will always give you lesser rate, right? Of course, they are not going to give you the interbank lending rate. And then that also divided by 5 by 12, right? And then we have the FRAs. So since the interest rate has gone down to 3.6%, so we will be getting some kind of relief from or refund from the FRAs that you have with the bank, from the local bank, right? And that's the good thing about FRA, right? So it's certain. Okay, so what do we get? Mm-hmm. 27 million times 3.6 minus that will be 3.3%, divided by 12 into 5, so 371,250, right? And then what about this thing? Of course it has to be same. So 5.06, what did I do? 5.02 minus 3.6, so 1.42 divided by 100 times 27 million, and then that amount is also divided by 12 times 5, so 159, 750, right? So that's just the amount that we will receive, right? That's the amount we will receive. This was pay, this was receive. So in our case we are receiving, so 371, 250, we add it, 531,000, and then of course you see it does not matter whatever happens to the interest rate, because you had done a forward rate agreement. That's the beauty of it. I wanted to have some line thing. Where is that? Pays with blah blah blah. Not pays color. I want some grid lines over here. Not that small. I want it wider. Right. So this thing helps a bit. So what was the amount? 27 million times 12 divided by 5. Right. So 531,000. So 531,000 divided by 5 into 12 divided by 27 million. So it's the same rate, of course. Why am I even calculating? 4.72%. Okay, what else? So this first part is done. We are done with FRA. Let's do with interest rate futures. Don't know if the abbreviation is IRF, but yeah, I was about to write it, but I just didn't. Let's not write it. Okay, so what else? Futures, right? So in futures, what do? We leave the transactions at RICS. And then after that we buy futures because it's a deposit thing. Our RICS is basically the rate going down, so which means if the rate goes down, the price will go up, right? So in that case, what do? If we buy over here, then if we sell, then only we can make profit, right? Otherwise, what will happen? It will just be like you will be making a loss over here, you'll be making a loss, so there is no point in hedging it, right? So the whole point of hedging is basically to cover your losses. So we buy, right? So that's the first thing that we figured out, and then the second thing we need to figure out is how much amount, because normally it's not a perfect hedge, so we have to basically work around it, because the loan is for 5 months but our futures is only for 3 months, so we have to work out on the time frame, right? So buy futures worth how much? What's the amount? 27 million dinar times 5 by 3. That's the number. 27 divided by 3 will be what? 9. Okay, 9545 million. That's a good number. At least we don't have to do some forward rate for the decimal basis thing, right? When it's not a perfect hedge. Okay, 0.5 million is... Let's not do it in million and all, right? Otherwise it's just going to be complicated. It's easy, but contract size is basically 500,000, right? So what will be the number of contracts then? So it will be 45 million divided by 500,000. 90 contracts. Okay, we figured that out. What else? So we are just doing futures only right now, so we don't need to worry about premium. We just don't need to worry about it. Okay, so let's go to the date of transaction. When is that happening? 31st Jan 20x8. That's the date, the magical date when everything happens, right? Okay, we have the transaction on that date, so it's just going to be okay, I had to do something. So if interest rate rises by 1.1% to, how much was it? 4.2, so 5.3% transaction. So 27 million times 5% times 5 by 12. You see, why am I doing 5%? It's basically 5.3 minus 0.3. That's why it's 5%, okay? So what, 562, 500 or something? No, wasn't that the same? It should be same amount, yeah. 27 million times 5%. Divide by 12 times 5. Yeah, 562, 500. Right, so another thing is, what about the futures? Futures, obviously you have to close the transaction anyway, right? So you just don't have the option to let it lapse. So 500,000, that's the contract, right? Is there any tick value or something? No, there is not, right? So we bought at that price, right? Let's see. Let's create a working note as well. Working note, and then let's have the interest rate. Futures, let's have the dates. Today is what? 1st of October. The Jan. 30th of June. Nope. 30th of March. Let's just see what they say. Settled at end of each month. Diminishes to 0 at a constant rate based on monthly time intervals. Okay, that's easy. So by the time it reaches over here, it should be 0, right? What is it today? What's the basis risk today? So what was the interest rate before we even do anything? So 4.2, right? So it's going to be 100 minus 4.2. 95.8. 95.8. What was the futures price then? 94.78. 94.78. 1.02. And then from October to 30th March, what is it? So October, November, December, Jan, Feb, March, right? So 0.17 times to 0.34, 0.34. What has happened to the interest rate between this period and this period? The interest rate was 4.2% to, what are we currently looking at? Which scenario? It has increased, right? 5.3%. 5.3 minus 100, what's going to be? 94.7, right? So 94.7. So for futures, it's going to be decreased, right? So we know the interest rate is that, and the basis risk is that, so that means we can calculate the futures, right? So that will be interest rate minus the basis risk. 0.34, so it's going to be 94.36. 94.36, so that's the price. It's going to be 94.36. 100, right? So we are selling it at that price. What did we buy it at? 94.78, right? We made some loss over here because the interest rate had gone up. 94.78 minus 100. We had cover until 5.22, but we lost it. Right, and then 3 by 12 because it's for 12 month, and then we have to basically do it for 3 months only. So what was the loss in basis? Or we could even write this thing differently, but yeah, it's not going to work out because we don't have the tick value, right? 94.36 minus 94.78, what's the gap? 0.72, 42, divide by 100 times that 500,000 minus that, so that's going to be what? 45 million. Divide by 12 times 3. What am I even doing, man? 47,250. I think I made some mistake or what? So that's the loss. Right, minus 560 to 500. 515,250. Effective rate, let's just compute one more time. 0.42 divide by 100 times 90 times 500,000, and then divide by 4. 47,250. Okay, we are good. So this rate is only for what? 5 months only. So let's annualize that. That's our amount, right? 27, not 45. Our loan amount, and then we analyze it. So that's for 5 months. Divide by 5, multiply by 12. Into 12 divided by 5 into 100, 4.58. Yep. So that's only done for what? If the interest rate increases, right? If interest rate falls. Sorry. Falls by 0.6% to 3.6%, right? 27 million times minus 0.3, 5 by 12, right? 27 times 3.3% divide by 12 times 2, 2 times 5 into 100. What did I even do? 27 times 3.3%, then you divide by 12 times 5 into 1 million, 371,250. Okay, what happened to the thing? Futures. What was it? 90 into 500,000, right? Okay, so let's look at it. So futures that much, 100 minus 94.78. Of course it's going to be a gain over here. Three by 12, and then let's do another working note. Interest futures, basis RICS, 1 point, what was it, 02. So it's going to be same number, 95.8. And then what was it, October, 31st Jan, 31st March, and then this is going to be 0.34. The rate has fallen to 4.2 to 0.6. 12 minus 6, 6, 3 left, 3.6 minus 100, 100 minus 3.6, what, 96.4. .34, so 96.06, right, 96.06. Okay, we have some gain over here, right? 96.06, 96.06 minus 94.78 divided by 100, so 1.28 basis points. Into 90 into 500,000 divide by 4, so 144,000 is the gain. 12 by 5 will give us what? It's just going to be same figure, 4.58%. You see, because this number is same, right? One point what? 96.06 minus 94.78, 1.28 basis points gain over here. And then what was over here? 94.36. 94.36 minus 94.78, 0.42 loss over here, right? So there must be some kind of effective rate. 4.58 is the effective rate, but 3.6 plus 1.28 minus 3, 0.3, so 4.58, yeah. So if we were to find that lock-in rate, it would be future price plus 94.72, 0.34, no, it's not that. .8 minus 0.34. Yeah. So it's 94. It's 94.72. And then 1.02 divide by 6 times how many months have gone by? 4 months, right? So 0.68, that will be added up. So 95.4 minus 1.02 divided by what's the expired basis? I think this is the formula for the lock-in rate. Plus minus expired basis. Right, so 94, 1.02 divided by 6 times 4, that's the expired basis, 0.68, and then plus 94.72 will give us 95.4 minus 104.6. Oops, that's not working. 1.02 minus 0.34 will also give us the same thing. It has to be 95.46 minus 94.72. Plus 0.68 is not enough. What am I missing over here? Let's just check my notes. Where is it? Okay, so chapter what? Interest rate, right? Lock-in rate. That's what I want to see. So current future prices adjusted by unexpired basis. So I think there is another way where future applies 72 plus 0.34, 95.06 minus 100, so 4.94. What was our thing? 4.58, right? Okay, I'll have to check the formula for this thing. It's not keep on digging on it for too long. I mean, it has to be somewhere in the middle. It has to be between those things. I just got confused, like it's minus from the thing or what is it, interest rate and then futures thing, whether it's subtracting from the other thing or what. I have to check it out. Options. So what do we have? Two options. So if interest rate rises by 1.1% to 5.3%, exercise price 25 futures price is basically what? Futures price is what was it in the working note? 94.36, 94.36, 94.36. Right, so what kind of option is basically call option, right? That's what we are looking for. Four to 5, it will be 96 too. So it's going to be call option, right? And then what else? The gain on basis. It's basically if we have an exercise price, we can buy at that price, right? And of course, the gain on basis on this thing will be 0. So exercise will be no. Yes, right. Gain on basis is 11 over there. And then underlying transaction, we do have transaction is what? 562 500, isn't that the amount? And then what happens on the options? I mean, how much money do we make on it? We make 0 over here because we don't exercise it, so it's an option, right? We don't make any loss on it, but we do pay premium on it as well, right? So what about the option? So what we do is basically 45 million times, that's the number of, that's the option amount or hedged amount, right, times 11 divide by 10,000 percent times 3 by 12, right? So the amount is going to be 90 times 500,000, 0.545% divide by 12 times 3. Okay, 61313. 61313. That's the premium. So it's going to be same amount. Oops, it's not going to be same amount. What am I even doing? I mean, it's going to be a bit different because the rate is very different, right? 19 to 500,000 divided by 4 and then times 0.098%, so it's very less. 11,025. I think it will just take all the gains, plus it will just take a lot of the money from the interest amount that we receive as well. So total will be 562 500 minus 61313 plus 12375, right? So 513 562. Effective rate will be what? Out of 27 million times 12 divided by 5 into 100, what? 4.56. Again over here, 562 500 minus 11025. Right, you see the premium that they charge is very high, right? That's basically eroding all the losses. I mean all the gains. You see, 61,000 you're paying in premium, and then you're only making 12,000 from the options, so it's not worth it, right? So what's the effective rate? So 4.90%. So we have to make some suggestion on it as well, right? Okay. Still a lot of calculations still. If interest rate decreases by 0.6% to 3.6%, right? So what will happen now? Sorry. So it's going to be same thing. Exercise price, futures price, 94.25, 94.25. Gain on basis. Exercise. What's the decision going to be, right? Yes, no, and then we have the underlying transaction. Then we have the options. Then we have the premiums. Basically, it's going to be same amount. Effective rate. What else? Working note 2, 96.06. Of course, we'll be exercising in both cases. it's 95.25, yeah. So 100 basis points. Okay, so what's over here? What's the gain on basis? 96.06 minus 94.25, so 1.81. 181 basis points gain over here. 96.06 minus 95.25, so it's going to be 81. 81 basis points. Of course it's going to be a yes decision. What, 371 250. So underlying transaction is 371 250. 371 250. And then from the options, what are we going to make? I mean 181, right? 181 divided by 1000 times 45 million. If interest rate rises, decreases, FRA was what? 4.62. Let's see, 4.72. Right, futures was constant as well, I think. 4.58. Right. And then after that, basically, which one should we go with? The highest return is over here, unless this thing happens over here. So I think we should rate, yeah. Change again the 95 option maybe. So it may be a bit helpful. So this can be ruled out because it only gives a bit of marginal benefit, right? And then this option, and then it's even worse if the rate falls out, so that can be ruled out. So if it feels like the rate will be higher than 5.41, at that point 94.25 option would not be exercised, and it may be wiser, right? Just to go with 94.25 option. So basically it will be what? 94.25. So the rate has to increase, right? So basically it has to be able to cover it. Right, so 5.41, if it expects the rate will be higher than 5.41, then 94. 0.25 will not be exercised, right? Because after that 5.41 minus 100, so 94.59. Yeah, we might have to see, but that's the higher limit, right? Just giving a scenario only. Yeah, that